Welcome to Fort Worth 148's podcast, where we meet to discuss Masonic topics and strive to build value in the Brotherhood. The opinions and statements of the participants do not represent any positions or stance of any Grand Lodge or Lodge and are solely the viewpoints of the participants. Ba-da-ba! Welcome to podcast number 9, brothers. Ladies, maybe. This is Rhit Moore, past master and current secretary of Fort Worth 148.
Grant Gates, current Tyler, 148.
Gabriel Jagush, Master Mason, 148.
So, how are you guys doing?
Doing great.
It's beautiful
Right on.
day.
I'm excited. We cracked 2,500 downloads. Things are going great.
Thanks
This
to all our
podcast is-
listeners.
2,500 downloads? That's great.
Yeah, I'm just amazed at the success, and it's a testament. Here we are, a little bitty lodge in the middle of Fort Worth, and have made this kind of reach. What could a Grand Lodge do?
Well, hey, that would be an amazing thing to figure out,
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
one of those things, if you take that extrapolation of as above, so below, right? Man, that'd be incredible.
Absolutely. I mean, because they don't have to be public like this, but it could be such a great tool you could have a secretary's podcast on how to be a secretary, all the forms we have and everything else. There's just endless possibilities for this. And it's too easy once you get the hang of it.
Well, let's jump right into news. Rhit, you went to a shrine function. Tell us about that.
So, been a Mason for going on 14 years now, and I know very little about any appendant bodies, and I had a blast. So the Mausoleum Shrine had their meeting with all their clubs. I didn't even know how that worked, and they invited me to speak on how to grow membership, and it was a great meeting where we talked about building values, sharing information, because the shrine has so many different clubs to get involved in that I had no idea about. And I know 90% of Masons who aren't Shriners don't have any idea about. They don't know the cost, because you hear shrines, the rich man Mason say, that isn't the case. There's things you can join that are $15 a year. It's
$15 a year. Yes.
It's almost next to nothing. Like the Bedouins we mentioned before, I think it was like $300 a year, and you get an instrument. They teach you how to play it.
That sounds like a lot of fun. That's the like the Middle Eastern band, right?
Absolutely. So, how better to better yourself?
That's cheaper than 5 guitar lessons.
That's what I was going to say.
I know. That's pretty cool.
And they had another where the meeting was, where they build backdrops or like displays. They do it for the Potentates Ball, but they build them out of styrofoam. They did one that was like a replica of Las Vegas, one that was a stagecoach, different themes, and they have competitions for this stuff between the different temples in Texas. So these guys get together, go up there and build stuff, and they build it out of styrofoam, and they have a shop for it and everything, and it's a club. I was like, I had no idea that this went on. I said, I'm sure there's some fun shenanigans going on back there, and they have a blast doing great things together. I was like, you guys need to let us know more about what y'all are doing. I think their membership problem could be cured easy, because they have a lot to offer.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So is it just so are you thinking it's just a matter of communicating this stuff?
I think it absolutely is. The society and we as a group, from Blue Lodge to any appendant body, have buried ourselves to where the square and compass is almost barely recognizable. And nobody knows what these groups do. Like I said, I've been a Mason for almost 14 years. I had no idea I could get musical lessons for less than $350 a year and hang out with some great guys.
I had looked into the Shrine Bedouin Band, a couple other things. Like, I don't ride motorcycles, but I was talking to a guy in the motor corps, and they were saying, like, well, we'll start you off with straight lines and see where you go from there, right? And I was like, all these things, and they look so cool. But for me, it's also just a matter of time, because I'm in the lucky position where I could afford to join several appendant bodies, but time-wise.
No, and I mentioned to him, I said, we have created walls in between our fraternity and our appendant bodies to where now if you join the Blue Lodge and you love the Scottish Rite, you feel guilty for not being a part of your Blue Lodge, and it shouldn't be that way. We're all doing the same thing in society. We're all on the same goal, to where if you join and you love riding motorcycles, they got a gun club. I mean, they've got it for everything you might like, basically. And they're hurting for members. And it's right there, to where when we take down those walls to where it's okay to be a Shriner and show up to Blue Lodge once or twice a year, that's fine. We're all still good Masons.
Right, because you found your niche,
That's it. If you're looking for guys to get guys from Blue Lodge to your group, come visit the guys in Blue Lodge. Like, get to know them a little bit. That's how you're going to drive membership, especially to groups that require you to be a Master Mason. Come see us. Like, we want to you got to get to know the guys. You can't just say, show up and say, hey, come join. If guys don't know you, boy, it's hard to get them to jump over and come see you.
Well, and I told them that and there's more than one way to skin a cat on that, to where you don't necessarily have to be active in your Blue Lodge. You can have a social media presence with your lodge.
Yeah.
To where people know what's going on with you and that you still love your Blue Lodge. You just don't have the time because you're making yourself better over here. We've lost sight of what we have to fix. Why we came here. We came here not to fix our membership problem. We came here to fix ourselves. And if that happens better in the Shrine, get there as quick as you can. If it happens better in the Scottish Rite, get there and leave Blue Lodge behind. Pay your dues. Follow the laws.
Show up to a stated meeting every once in a while.
There you go. Make a showing.
And then you're golden.
And they have ambassadors that could maybe do all the appendant bodies do a little better job of letting Blue Lodge know, because I don't know how much it costs to be a Scottish Rite. I don't know how much it costs to be in Commandery. And those are things that could influence my decision. I don't know what all the Shrine offers or what all Commandery offers.
And I think part of it,
I can assure you that the degree fees and dues for chapter and council are pretty reasonable.
Well, I think
most of them are.
A lot of guys' only exposure, as a Blue Lodge member, a lot of times your only exposure to these appendant bodies is once or twice a year coming in and saying, we need members and we really need you guys to join, almost to a point where you're feeling like, hey, I don't want to feel guilty for not joining. If you come in and it kind of feels like almost a guilt trip to get guys in there, you're not going to get a great response. And I think, a message of, guys, this is what we do. Come see us, come have dinner with us, would get a great response, because we've had folks come in and occasionally it feels like, hey, you got to come join us. We got to have members. We're not going to be around if you don't come join. That's not going to drive guys from Blue Lodge, especially if they're enjoying Blue Lodge, to your group. Come in and tell us what you do. Get excited about it. Show us your excitement, because that's what drives you to get there. Seeing other guys excited. That's what brings you to Masonry in the first place.
The thing that finally drove me over the tipping point to join chapter and council was when I was at the Masonic retirement home, and I was talking with a bunch of guys, Master Mason. I'm thinking about some of the appendant body. Are there any that I should join, or any that I should stay away, or what? And James Kirkpatrick went up to, was talking to him. I'm going to rephrase this so that public's safe. There's a question of something that doesn't happen in the third degree. And it's not because it shouldn't happen, it's because it cannot happen. And you find out why in chapter.
Uh-oh.
You find out more. And so that's what drove me over the edge to join chapter and council. Like, I gotta figure. So,
but it was his zeal, right? I mean,
yeah,
we've met. I've met James, and that guy has a passion, and his passion is a driver. I know, Gabe, you and I have talked a couple times about Scottish Rite. A big driver for me right now is Mark Donahue is passionate about it, and dang it, if Mark's passionate about it, there's something there, and I want to see what it is.
It's not words that are going to get us in here. I specifically talked to him about what you said earlier, Gabe, about coming to a stated meeting and say, we need y'all to join. I told him that this generation is instantly turned off, that you've created a wall that is going to be so hard to overcome if you come out and just say you need to join or we need you, kind of guilt trip, like you said, because I've been asked to join the commandery 100 times, and I have never really got intrigued about it until I see post after post about Ricky Cox up there doing something cool that's like, oh, now that looks pretty cool. And I told him, I said, you can't tell them what you do. You got to show them what you do.
Well, I'll get you to join chapter and council yet, just because I think love the ritual. So kind of segueing into that in the local news, right? Temple-centric news. Last night,
let's do it.
I guess the day that this is released is going to be Thursday. So Tuesday night was the Texas Council 321 Royal and Select Master. I was one of the 3 candidates. Man, that is some heavy stuff. Very cool, very solid, very moving. The Royal Master. Can't go into any detail about it, because all of the cool stuff that I want to talk about is tiled, starting at the Master Mason, because there's stuff that happens in that degree that you tie back to. There's stuff that happens in the Royal Art. Oh my god, dude. But it was incredible. Great degree work, incredible experience. Speaking of great degree work, we went to, there was some of us from 148 went to the Web Lodge degree. James Jones and myself were there, and Mark Myers hosted the outdoor degree on his land out in Lipan, Texas. It was a great experience. Super cool to watch the Knights of Mecca from Hella Shrine in Garland do the conferral. Just incredible stuff. Some of this stuff is kind of interesting because, you're outdoors, so you don't have a lodge room. So where's the door? Well, there is still a door. Just the setup is kind of interesting. And
it is cool.
Ricky Cox tiled the degree with a rifle so he rode around the perimeter of the property on his horse, keeping very careful out for cowards.
That's awesome. And it's that Masonic Henry rifle with all the emblems and symbols on it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I had to take...
I did too. When I was out there last year, I took a zillion pictures.
So, on the national level, I was looking for some Texas news, and barring the stuff that happened around us, I didn't really have a lot of time this week. But on the national stage, Greensboro, North Carolina, a bunch of go-karts were stolen from Oasis Shrine in Greensboro on either the 5th or the 6th of April. They're not sure when. But the thieves took an entire trailer full of go-karts, right? And the trailer is white with big lettering on the side that says Greensboro NC on the side, NASCAR, and Oasis Shriners. So if you're in Guilford County, please contact these guys. And I think they estimated it to be $45,000 worth of go-karts. And I mean,
oh my gosh.
This is stuff that these guys, it just makes me think, what kind of scumbag does? Because these guys ride these go-karts in parades to make kids happy, It's just sad. But, so that was
special place in the underworld for them.
Yeah, they always stub their toe. So,
yeah, exactly.
But, okay, Beverly Hills, California. Brother Don Rickles has laid down his working tools. He passed away from kidney failure on April 6th, age of 90. He is best known for his stand-up comedy, and he was raised to the sublime degree of a Master Mason on June 6th, 1953 by Service City Jiba Lodge, 1009 in Astoria, New York.
Yeah, that guy was phenomenal. Such a great comedian.
But, our thoughts are with him and his family. In Louisville, Kentucky, hundreds of Masons gathered together on April 8th to form the largest human square and compass. This occurred during the 14th annual Great Day of Service when Kentucky Masons get together and do...
Hold up. You say Kentucky just did that to break the record?
Yeah, the largest human square and compass.
It's held by Kentucky now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think our senior warden is kicking up plans to break that record.
That does not surprise me in the least.
Who should have the record? What state should have the record for the biggest square and compass?
Well, the place where everything
Texas
is bigger.
No. You got it. Yeah. So be ready for that announcement.
So I'm excited about that.
That'll be cool, huh?
For news abroad, UGLE. So 3 brothers from the UGLE, For anybody that doesn't know, the United Grand Lodge of England. 3 brothers from the UGLE were interviewed on BBC Breakfast this morning. They were featured on the documentary Inside the Freemason. The first episode airs on Monday of next week on Sky One, and so I haven't really heard a lot about the series. I have no idea, honestly, what it's about, but my understanding is that they're going inside lodge rooms, and I don't know if they're like looking at degree work. I would hope not.
You never know with these clandy lodges.
Yeah, that very big. Oh,
the
yeah.
UGLE, Clandy. Got
it.
Oh, I missed that part.
No.
Wait, you ain't Texas? Okay, I know what to call y'all. Gotcha. And we apologize for Taskmaster Rhit Moore and his comments about the LG.
Again, disclaimer, our comments do not represent that of our lodge or any other Grand Lodge or anything.
Especially Rhit.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at the Google results for this, and I have no idea what it's about. Let's see. What does Chris Hode have? It's a 5-part documentary about the 300th anniversary of the 1717 formation of the Grand Lodge. Originally, it was a 4-parter in 1-hour segments, but they said it was 5 episodes now. And so UGLE is cooperating with it, but it sounds like it's going to be like history lessons, myth busting, that kind of thing, why people care about it. I'm going to try and find it either on BBC America or some form of download up because I'm very...
If it's on BBC, you should be able to pick it up on Hulu. If you don't have a Hulu account, hit me. I'll help you out with that, brother.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to watch it. You want to have a watching party?
That'd be kind of fun.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Cigars,
no, I think...
Cigars, whiskey, BBC.
Well, cigars in the house might get us flogged.
No, not with a baby. I wouldn't do that.
I do so solemnly swear that I will not smoke cigars inside the house upon penalty of being flogged by my wife.
So Omar put something on there about it, and I think I saw that on Facebook to where they, because UGLE is pretty loose on what they can talk about. And I think he's right where they show penalty signs and how we're dressed and things of that nature. So it could be further than we're comfortable with here, because our laws are pretty strict compared to theirs anyway. So that will be interesting to watch because I certainly will.
Okay. So questions. I want to toss this. There's the first part of this question I'm going to toss to Rhit specific, and then the second question is for all three. But what is your favorite chair to sit in office?
Like you want to personally?
Yeah, because you've sat in multiple chairs. What's your favorite chair to sit?
Steward, hands down. And I say that I know I'm in the minority.
You're kind of playing
absolutely. No, that was my first position I came in, and my dad made my older brother senior steward and me junior steward, and I hadn't been to lodge in over a year and a half. Didn't set foot, and from that moment, I've been there almost every Monday that those doors have been open. And, I took that job serious, but I had no idea what I was doing. I was like 24 years old or something. And the first stated meeting I cooked for, I'll never forget it. I was like, I'll make spaghetti. What do you make? With some cheesy spaghetti, which is what I was going to make. I burnt the noodles.
You burnt the noodles?
Yes.
I'm seriously impressed. That's really something.
I'm telling you, it takes a special kind of dumb to burn noodles when you're trying to boil them. they're in a pot of water, and I'm like, what's that burning smell? To where the bottom part of that spaghetti pan where the spaghetti was sitting on, because I was boiling it in a big old pot, it just burnt that spaghetti to a crisp at the bottom. And I took it out, but it didn't matter. It tasted, all the noodles tasted burnt. This is the worst meal ever.
Yeah, you gotta foul the whole batch with that, man. It's like
basically for like one of the most staple meals of Mason, you managed to totally burn it. Okay.
Oh man. So from that point to what I serve now, you can see that I've become a better person through being a better cook.
A better person through my burning of noodles.
You got it.
So that I would tend to give most of the credit to her, Rhit. Just
as I would have it,
pre-existing knowledge.
As I would have it. Although I probably do 70%. Poppers are always made by me. If it's any kind of meat, I'm usually doing. I made all the enchiladas this time, but she deserves the credit because those things, it's just hard to do by yourself. And she's right there by my side, and she loves doing it. So that's another reason I like Stewart, because me and my wife do it together. We shop together,
Yeah, that's an awesome way to get your family. Let's do something
better
fun
than grocery
together.
shopping with
I
your
love
wife.
cooking,
Oh,
yeah.
I love cooking. You'll get there one day, man. Grocery shopping with your wife is awesome. Mainly because I'm allowed to cook 2 meals in the house. Mac and cheese. I do make the world's best macaroni and cheese. Just not bragging, but totally bragging. And Red Baron pizzas, because I know how to get the crust just right. Otherwise, it's all her.
That's not cooking.
I make a murderously good pork loin and a pork butt as well. I have a little bitty smoker that I'm very proud of. It's not often that I toot my own horn when it comes to cooking skills, but get me a smoker, and so
it's awesome. A lot of fun. Once you get good at it, it's a lot of fun. But for most people, if I wasn't a good cook, I would pick some lower position, like junior deacon or something like that, to where you still have a role, but you're not involved in the drama.
Well, I guess not strictly speaking of drama, because I know that you're talking about more of the interpolitical drama. But what's your favorite chair to sit in during this is for all three.
Depends on the degree.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, entered apprentice degree, junior warden. I love being the junior warden during the entered apprentice degree. There's a certain amount of fun in that for me. I enjoy junior warden. And then for the fellowcraft degree, I enjoy the senior deacon position, the senior warden position the most. And for the Master Masons degree, put me anywhere, man. I'm going to have a blast anywhere. Please don't put me at Worshipful Master. I will.
We'll get you there.
I'll mess it up royally at this point, but I like to be a part of that degree. So that one's a lot of fun for me. All in all, if I had to pick one position that I could do, and I couldn't do any other moving forward, be junior warden in the entered apprentice degree. I have a blast there. I don't know why.
That's cool. Yeah. I'm senior deacon for the first 2 degrees because I love being hands-on with the candidate.
Yeah.
If I had to pick a small part, it would be Master of Ceremonies. I think, especially in the EA, that guy needs to be on point. He is crucial in the person's Masonic journey. It's either going to be something trivial or something serious to him, depending on how the Master of Ceremonies acts. So I love that part. But the senior deacon is the same thing. You've got him in your hands and you're leading him through the degree. You're as close to him as you could be. But when it comes to the 3rd degree, I'm all about playing the East. It's just something about that position. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
You get to chew out the junior warden. You get to boss everybody around.
They're having somebody very capable in the master sight.
It's a lot of fun. I mean, because I thought about it the other day. My wife and I went to a play, and I was like, man, I really enjoy these things. And it surprised me at first. And it was like, wait, I go to one of these, 2 or 3 of these a month,
You're
it's like
one of them.
Yeah. So. And when I watched the play, it was at a different level, because when I'm playing that part, I do take it as a theatrical play, more so than the other ones where you're just trying to be solemn and, not monotone, but all about the candidate kind of thing. Right. With that.
That's actually, anytime I'm asked, what are the degrees? That's actually how I describe it. It's a play, guys. We're acting in parts. We're dressing in uniform. We have dedicated lines. We have dedicated positions. We are, it's a play, and it's a ton of fun to do. I was in I took drama class mainly because of the ratio of girls to boys in drama. I had to take an arts class. I think it was like 31 girls to 2 guys. It was fantastic. But it goes back to, at some point, everything you do is for the opposite sex. But anyway, it's back point. I've always enjoyed theater a little bit, and it lets you kind of expand on that flair. The Master Mace's degree it really does.
You guys talk about theater and drama and getting into stuff. What do you guys do? Sorry, that's still fresh on my mind. But yeah,
no. I've been looking forward to
getting into roles and the York writing. But as far as the 3 Blue Lodge, I love being the senior ward. It's just an incredible sit there and be that kind of call and response and explain some very basic stuff, But one of the cool things was that for that outdoor degree in web, the guy who was raised, I was sitting on the sidelines. I'm not part of the Hella degree, but I was the senior warden for his EA degree. So I was there at the beginning and I was there at the end. It was kind of a super special. But yeah, if I had to pick one thing, though, it would be just probably. Or
I'm with you, because that is the hardest job, because by the time you're on and it's your turn, that candidate's tongue's dragging the floor. His esoteric tongue is already. So good luck keeping his attention, but a good lecturer can do it. Mm-hmm. James Kirkpatrick can have you sitting at the edge of your seat. It's like, that's the same lecture I give, but how did he, and you got to pick up on that. You got to put some inflection into it and make it your own, because that candidate will it's almost impossible not to start tuning it out. It's just human nature.
If you've got the committee on work complaining about your lecture style, then you're doing something. Yeah.
I tell you what.
Say the words right, and there's not much they can do.
Yeah.
It was, I believe Sam Levacy did my EA lecture. Blew my mind. The right guy can really draw you in to that.
And let me ask you this, though. Did you at any point during his lecture go, I cannot believe this old man is doing all this from memory?
Actually,
I wouldn't put it that way, but
no, actually my thought was they have him up here probably because none of the other guys know it. This is so much. I don't think anyone else here knows this.
There you go.
But it left, left a standing impetus.
Yeah, not to discount Sam, because he's spot on. He's very good at what he does, and I say old in a reverential, because I'm just as guilty when I give the lecture. I can see when I lose the candidate. So
to be
it's
fair,
good.
Though 100 years old, it's not wrong.
No, I say it as a term of endearment. You hear old guys and everybody thinks, oh, he's a crotchety past master. It's like, no.
He's one of the most fun guys to be on.
He's
absolutely
one of the guys you'll ever meet in your life.
Right. Yep. So let's jump into the meat of the thing, because we've been yapping for quite a while.
Well, that's good. I mean, we could talk. We got lodge officer duties to talk about tonight, and I know we could talk about it for a bit, but we can keep everything pretty brief.
We'll keep it tight. We'll get off topic. We'll touch the actual topic for about 3 minutes out of an hour. So y'all get ready. Strap yourselves in.
Right. So kind of the format that I wanted to tackle this in was if we talked about Texas local lodge officers, right? So on the individual Blue Lodge. And then we talked about Texas Grand Lodge. And then we talked about local lodge officers in other jurisdictions. And then Grand Lodge officers, if that makes sense.
Sounds good to me.
So I guess I'm going to be leaning heavily on you for this one, Rhett. Tell us about, we're going to go all the way from the east down. So tell us.
That sounds good.
Worshipful Master, what's his job?
So I think first what I wanted to let everybody know is that, you hear a lot of people ask, well, what's their duty? Or, we need to make a handbook, which that's not a bad idea. You should put together a brief handbook for your lodge. But our duties for all the offices are lined out either in the monitor. If you look in the installation ceremony, it's very descriptive for the worshipful master. You look in Grand Lodge law, there's information on qualifications, how to become one, what you've got to do as one that you're required by Grand Lodge law. Your bylaws typically have directives for officers, your duties as an officer. And then again, if you've got a lodge handbook, and if you don't, it's good to, put one together, just briefly describing and putting where they find all this information. But like in the Grand Lodge Law Book, Article 276, 274 goes over the qualifications and stuff like that. And then you've got the life program that gives you a lot of information on what to do as an officer. So, while you may not do all those programs that are in there, it gives you a good rundown of what you should do. Now, with that said, I think personally that the Worshipful Master title especially has too much. We've put too much into that. When we look at the Worshipful Master, we expect him to be the guy who makes sure everything, meeting goes off on time, everything's in order. All the programs are, have volunteers for the blood drive, and he's organized that he's organized the pancake fundraiser or the education night, whatever. And he's like the do-it-all guy. Because everybody knows that if they don't do it, the Worshipful Master will, because ultimately he doesn't want anything to fall through the cracks, And in sets the beginnings of what we call at 148 the past master's disease, that as soon as that guy's uninstalled and he's junior past master, you're lucky you see him again in the next 4 or 5 years, because he
just leaves.
Yeah, he's been rolled hard and put up wet, and he's like, I'm out of here. Nobody comes to Lodge. I didn't join to plan the blood drive. And that's not to discount the blood drive. Don't get me wrong. Your Lodge needs to do stuff like that. It has to do stuff like that.
And to be fair, there are some people to plan, but you are not one of them.
Absolutely. So there could be one. Absolutely. There could be multiple. There has to be. But in the same token, nobody joins Lodge to do administrative work in general. When you join and you have time to realize what's going on, you see the necessity of it and you get the calling for it and you don't mind doing it. But, nobody joins to be the guy who plans all the events and is responsible for all these different things, and in the end, they're not even enjoying it. Right. They're doing it because they feel like they have to.
Well, and if you're carrying out your duties if you're carrying out your duties not because you want to, but because you feel obligated to, there's times when you do have to carry out your duties because you're obligated. You're not going to enjoy yourself. You are going to be miserable always.
Absolutely. And if you become an officer, you're going to do things that you don't necessarily enjoy. I'm secretary. I do a lot of paperwork that I don't necessarily enjoy, but I see the end to the means of it, and you kind of get a calling for it. And if that happens, that's great. But we've put in so much into that Worshipful Master position, and he is the highest ranking officer in a stated meeting, but let him try to do something that the majority of the Lodge doesn't agree with. And then you'll find out who the highest ranking member is. It's that body of Masons that make up the membership. So essentially the Worshipful Master is the tip of the spear that's made up of the membership that makes the first it makes the first insertion when the spear goes in, because he's the guy that's kind of leading the charge, but it's not his charge. It's all those guys on the sideline. And if he's not,
magician's wand, kind of.
You got it. And if he's not rallying those troops to do what the Lodge needs to do, that's where he's failed. That's his duty, not to do the stuff that needs to be done, but to inspire those guys on the sideline to make that stuff happen. And he just sees that it all goes in the right direction. He uses that trowel.
So effectively, he's the master delegator. He's managing his troops, right? He's delegating the tasks that need to be delegated, he's handling to handle. That's kind of how I see it, at least.
In a sense, because if the need arises to where a committee's put together and they're not sure what's going on, the Worshipful Master steps in and guides them, gets them started. But look at most of the committees that are formed here. Has the Worshipful Master delegated anything? He's just led the charge. He's just created the environment to make it happen. Greg's golf tournament was put on solely by him. There was no delegation. He thought that idea up. He knew that he got the Lodge approval and ran with it. And the worshipful master had nothing to do with it. Not anything. It's actually a compliment for him that environment's there for that to happen. And that's what it should be. If your lodge is a Vanguard lodge that wants to get Vanguard, you shouldn't, as worshipful master, you shouldn't have that list checking it off. You should have that list in every member's hand, inspiring them to do things that are on that list to get you to Vanguard. And at the end of the year, you don't have to worry about it. You didn't have to worry about it at any part of the year because you set them to task with good and wholesome instructions right off the bat. And if you go up there with the mentality that this is my year kind of thing, which is funny to say,
being your year.
It's not. It's not. It's going to be frustrating. Past master's disease will start growing in you, and you're going to get burnt out. Let those guys do the work and be proud that you were at the head of it, because in the end, the worshipful master is like the quarterback of the team. When the football team wins, who gets most of the radio time? It's the quarterback. Although if you don't have a good offensive line, you're not doing nothing, but they don't get any accolades.
Speaking of the offense, let's talk about some other officers down the line then.
So I think senior warden is a guy that should have a very active role in the lodge. By the time you're worshipful master, while you do a lot of the talking at a stated meeting or whatever, your senior warden should be set and rolling with things to put him in a position to be worshipful master, to have done the labor, to set guys to work as well. And when he's become worshipful master, he has that respect of, I'm not asking you to do something I wouldn't do kind of thing. So when it comes to interacting and really the delegation that Gabe was talking about, that should fall to that guy. As worshipful master, you like to think, oh, that's the guy that's in control, that's barking all the orders. Well, that's not how it works. I mean, the president's not out on the field telling the infantry what to do. He sits in his office and tells his generals and so on and so forth. And that's how it needs to work. Here, the worshipful master tells his wardens, here's how I want my year to go. This is what this is the kind of things I expect, whether it be Vanguard, whether it be putting together a degree team, whatever that may be, and let your generals make it happen. You certainly are involved in it, no doubt. But if you get so heavily involved in it to where you're the boss and not letting your generals do what they do, they're not going to be prepped for the East, first of all, and you're going to get burnt out.
So is there anything specifically that a senior warden should be doing to, assist the worshipful master or prepare to be in that position if you're going on a standard, line to the East?
Yes. I think first and foremost, the senior warden should be the guy pressing the flesh, for lack of a better term. He should be the guy that is out there finding out what's concerning people, what's bothering them, what do they want to do, setting the tone to give them the resources to make their plan happen. All the while running it through the worshipful master, if it's a new program or something like that, thanking guys for being at lodge, paying them their wages, so to speak, and making those guys feel the value that's there. So when he's in the East, everybody knows him. Everybody knows what kind of guy he is and that he appreciates him being there, and he can be focused on the task at hand as master. Because whether you like it or not, as worshipful master, you deal with a lot of phone calls and a lot of issues that the lodge never hears about, and you need to be ready for that. I would love to see our worshipful master going around visiting, because he doesn't have to worry about the day-to-day administrative stuff at his lodge and is spreading brotherly love, and getting our district back together where we're communicating as lodges. Yeah. So while the senior warden's really active with the members that don't necessarily come on a regular basis, that junior warden is knee deep in guys who are your active guys, floor school, degree teams, those kind of things. We have our junior warden running our Big Brother program. He runs Big Brother program, degree teams, and loosely, sets up floor school because Sam runs out when he's there. Nobody can outrank him on that.
Yeah,
But
he does a great job on that.
at the same token, the junior warden's making all that happen. So he's the guy that, through the senior warden is paying the wages to the guys that are really active, to where the senior warden can focus on guys who aren't necessarily there all the time kind of thing. But, building those degree teams and building your floor school to where those guys that are active have stuff going on that allows them to get better as a Mason. Right. And then, of course, he is he should be proficient at Grand Lodge law. There's the old adage that he's the lawyer, which is kind of a funny statement because you can't claim to be a lawyer unless you're a lawyer. That'll get you in trouble. But it's just kind of a offhand term that when there's a question on the law, when there's a question on Masonic law, like, hey, how do you vote on a certificate of good standing? If you didn't know, you'd look to the junior warden and he'd bust out his law book because he has it right there at his station, and he'd look it up and tell you. Right. So by the time you're junior warden, you need to be familiar with it.
So on the kind of the law and stuff like that, what about the more administrative? What about the treasurer and the
so the secretary? There is administrative to it, and the first year and a half, 2 years, that's about how long it took me to wrap my head around it and get a system in place. For mailing out dues notice, who paid their dues, all that kind of thing that kind of fit. But once you get the hang of it, it's not that bad. But the thing that there's no handbook about is all the, I guess, drama, for lack of a better term, that you deal with. I never got dues notice kind of thing, and you mailed him 3, and he didn't update his address or something, and he's still mad at you. Not that he's suspended even, but anytime there's anything going on with Grand Lodge, they're calling you. Anytime there's anything going on within the district at the NWSA or, they'll call you, so there's a lot of those things that aren't necessarily hard to deal with, more time consuming than anything. But I've had a lot of heated conversations with brothers over whether things were mailed or not mailed. And it's just like, wow, he was mad about something. Absolutely. But, at the same time, that secretary's position, if at all possible, should be a past master. And I'm not into recycling. I think a lodge should have a goal of having as many past masters as possible. Let them go through the chairs. But the secretary's position should be somebody who can kind of sit in and dedicate themselves to it for at least 5 or 6 years. That way they can pass it off easily to the next one. And a past master has an easier time dealing with disgruntles, or if the Grand Lodge calls and has any kind of issue with something and needs documentation, a past master's going to know how to deal with that better.
Should the treasurer also be a past master, or do you think that's more?
No, not at all. That guy should be somebody who's not in software that you can use. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, because the things whether it be QuickBooks or whatever, your lodge needs to take advantage of it. I know Mark McCarron put together, I think it's Xero that we use, Will Guillermo, our treasurer now, to where we're going to have a format to where when our Form 71 comes out, we just download the information in there. It's already put in place to where zing, it matches up to all the things that have to be filled in on the Form 71, and it's done with a button click, basically, So for a lodge not to use that kind of thing is kind of, you're selling yourself short, because I'm sure most lodges have somebody that could get into that, and is knowledgeable about it. So no, not a past master there, because they don't deal with any of those drama issues that the line officers and secretary does.
Right. There's a finance, right, which that's still a heavy burden to carry, though.
Absolutely, it is. It needs to be somebody that you trust, because they're going to be on your bank account. They got to be a signer for the checking account. So, got keys to the cash, and it needs to be somebody that you can count on. because if you go spend money like me as steward, you need a check,
Yeah.
So, that position, though, is a lot more flexible, whether it be a past master or not. And, I mentioned it about the worshipful master that we've put too much emphasis on him, and I think that's really in general of those, especially those 3-line officers, because as members that sit on the sidelines, a lot of times I see they expect those officers to do everything. Mm-hmm. And that's not what they're there for. They're not the doers. They're the assigners and the inspirers. If the members aren't doing the majority of the work, because they're the majority of the people, you're going to get burnt out. Those lodge chairs are our opportunity, one of the best opportunities to make a good man better. My experience as worshipful master, I will never trade. It's like one of those moments that I think is when I was actually initiated into manhood, to where that saying, stand for something or fall for anything, to where it's to stand up for myself. Mm-hmm. This is getting serious. And you realize that you're playing for keeps. You're an adult now. And whether it be leadership training, whether it be administrative training, all of those you get in a, just a hotbed way as an officer, to where it just ingrains in you how to deal with issues like you don't get an opportunity anywhere else. Even if you're a boss at work, it's not the same. Those people are paid to be there. When you're the boss at lodge and these are volunteers, it's a training like you get nowhere else. And more people should have the opportunity to do it. But if you have your lodge set up to where the worshipful master is the end all be all, you very well could get a guy run through the east that could run things into the ground. So the members need to be the ruling officer.
So then he needs particularly good counsel. Probably one of the best spots for that is the chaplain.
Oh, yeah. That's another past master position.
So definitely a past master position?
No.
If
I'm not mistaken, the chaplain at Joel P. Lightfoot Lodge is not a past master, but he can pray like nobody's business. He will get you fired up in his prayers. And if you have somebody in lodge that can pray like that, put them there. And he does his own prayers. I mean, just offhand. And at David Bendel's installation, that prayer was phenomenal.
That's cool.
So otherwise, that chaplain sits right there by the worshipful master in his left ear, just right there to where he can literally whisper if you slub up on open and close because you're so nervous. Well, that chaplain's not. He's a past master. He's been there. Month 11, you finally get the hang of it. You're gone, which I think is great. You've been trained. Move on. Get better somewhere else. Sit a past master next there to you, and you got somebody rambling off, and he can nudge you and say, hey, give him the sign. It's time to sit down, or gavel him.
Right, because he's been there and experienced it.
Absolutely. Because that's one of the worshipful master has to do, and one of the most flubbed on is, even if you only have 15 guys at stated meeting, if everyone stood up and talked for 4 or 5 minutes, we would be there for over an hour with 15 guys talking for 5 minutes.
It would be miserable.
It'd be miserable. So no one person has the right to stand up and talk on a subject for more than 30, 40 seconds. Because if I talk on a subject, granted, if it's a presentation, it's different. But if we're talking on a subject and I stand up and talk for 3 minutes, the guy next to me is going to feel like a jerk to stand up and say anything. So you're
be like, this is going to hate this.
You got it. You got it. That. And the worshipful master has a duty. It's in the installation, in his charge installation. He has a duty to admonish brothers that are running on, and keep order and dignity in that meeting. So when the guys leave, they feel like they were part of something that made, that had value to it. And it wasn't just a run amok, ever who wanted to do whatever, did what. There's a protocol when you step into an open lodge, and it's adhered to strictly. And that's the worshipful master's job. And it's hard. That's hard to do. When a brother's up giving a passionate speech and he's rambling on and you got to tell him to sit down in a brotherly manner.
The chaplain kicks in and goes, hey.
Yes.
And man, there has to be a better time to talk about stuff. If the only time your lodge meets is at the stated meeting, when are you going to discuss things? Because there is a time and a place to discuss things. But if you don't give everyone an opportunity, it's going to come out at stated meetings. So, little off topic, definitely have a different time to talk about stuff and get those issues worked out where you can spend, an hour discussing a topic and get it worked out before you're in an open lodge.
I definitely think that lodges strive to have probably 2 meetings. One is the regular stated called meeting. Very
well, and when you say we hash out 70% of private Facebook page, so have some form of communication like that that's easy. That's how everybody communicates now. So get one that's private, nobody can see, and get your officers on there if nothing else. And you're absolutely right. There needs to be more than one meeting. That's because we have our masters only meeting. We spend the first half hour talking about Big Brother or whatever administrative we need to talk about and hashing it out, and the other hour and a half philosophizing.
right.
Strictly dedicated to education. Because if you try to in my experience anyways, if you try to ram a big education presentation down at a stated meeting, it ain't going to work.
Because people are already frying out.
People are already frying out, and we know that we show up to a stated meeting to do our business. And you should have some kind of inspirational, not educational, but some kind of inspirational speech, maybe an education here and there, not going to hurt, but it shouldn't go on, because those guys that never show up for anything else, they come up there to hear the treasury report. They come up here to hear the minutes, and they're going to give you negative feedback when that education comes up. If it's 20, 25 minutes. And if it's that long, you should have a special night for it anyways and invite other lodges.
And if you invite other lodges, you're going to need somebody to examine and introduce visiting brethren. Look at that segue.
There you go. See, that's another place. That's another place duties is the ritual. So you get your duties from the ritual. So I think senior deacon is really the first role that somebody takes on when they're serious about getting into an elected office, which is junior warden, senior warden, the line officers. When you finally make that step into senior deacon, you're like, you're thinking, all right, I'm ready to tackle the East.
And just to be clear, the senior deacon is an appointed position.
Yes. And, in my opinion, and I've heard there's lodges that did it that way in the old days, every lodge does it different. But in my opinion, the worshipful master should pick the senior deacon and the senior warden should pick the junior deacon because they are their right-hand man. If you recall in the duties of them, one carries worshipful master's instructions and one carries the senior warden's instructions. So they're kind of their right-hand man. And if things go correctly, the junior deacon should go to senior deacon and turn to junior warden and would be that senior warden's junior warden. You follow what I'm saying? So he's essentially picking his junior warden when he picks a junior deacon. And would it work out that way? No, he'd be senior deacon. Yeah, that's right. He'd be senior deacon. So his right-hand man would be 2 years in a row. That's what I'm thinking.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But that senior deacon role, while it's a little more serious, it still gives you the flexibility to feel things out because you're not committed yet. You could get in that position and be like, this is not for me.
So, and kind of very similar with the junior deacon.
Yeah, the junior deacon's got some where he speaks in the opening and closing of the esoteric part. Other than that, he doesn't really have a speaking role. While the senior deacon, as little as it is, he still stands up and introduces visitors and past masters. And you've done it a few times, Gabe. You know that can be kind of cumbersome.
Oh, yeah.
And you kind of get a feel for what it's like to be in the spotlight at lodge more so than junior deacon because you can practice for that. You can't practice for introducing people in the proper order with the proper title, and not knowing somebody held in a certain position. There's all kinds of flubs that happen in that to where you feel that burn.
Yep, I definitely left out somebody's former DDGM bit. Whoops.
And yeah,
Although in my defense, I'd never met the.
Exactly. So that kind of thing happens. But yeah, you still feeling in the pit of your stomach that's like, ooh. And then some guys are like, I don't like that, because you feel that quite a bit as worshipful master, whether it be somebody droning on and in your heart you should gavel him, but you don't have the cojones to do it, kind of thing. Or it's, the Grand Master calling you and telling you your charter's on the line. Do something he requires,
That's
so
scarier.
Yeah, well, that's opposite ends of the spectrum for sure. From something small and minute, like, should I gavel this guy, to, oh my gosh, my charter's on the line, because it happens. I've seen lodges lose their charter, and I've seen lodges defend them and get to keep them. But I always feel bad for the worshipful master, because in the installation it says he is the steward of the charter, and it is his duty to keep it in his possession and then pass it on to the next worshipful master. And it's like a nightmare for a worshipful master to have to live with the fact that on his watch, that lodge, for however long it had been open, lost its charter. Whether it be for good reasons or bad reasons, still that's got to weigh heavy on somebody's heart. So it's, especially for a lodge like 148, it's been open from 1850. Could you imagine if you were the worshipful master and for some weird reason the charter got pulled in your year? You'd feel devastated. You'd never recover.
So moving down stewards, we already talked about in the question not to functional difference in the senior steward and the steward.
No, and traditionally, they cook. But like if you're like a lodge like us, that I'm not going to let the stewards go. I would, but I don't want them to, because I love doing it. They should take on a different role. Right. Those stewards should do something else besides cook. And our stewards don't cook, and they do other stuff. So those guys can take on different roles than they actually have traditionally.
Right.
Because some lodges have meals catered.
That's true. And then the stewards are in charge, and those lodges sometimes.
Absolutely. We've talked about using our stewards for having meals on like the first Monday night, to where they bring up pizza or whatever, and we just sit around and chat and gnaw on pizza. So, you can come up with other duties, but yeah, that's pretty straightforward for most lodges, because most lodges still cook, or get sandwich stuff for before a degree. Because we're in the minority when we don't feed before a degree. Most lodges do that.
Yeah, we'll actually go get food and drinks afterwards.
That's true. And most lodges don't have the active age we do. Getting there by 6 o'clock is about as early as anybody can get there.
So moving on down again, this is a very American, because it's not really common outside of the marshal. That some places call him the director of ceremonies, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. In your experience, is that something that you can tackle on, or?
The marshal's role, really and truly, the only time I've ever seen him utilized is in the installation ceremony, to where he, the worshipful master says the plumb line, and he holds up the plumb line and stuff like that, and declares the installation closed. Other than that, there was many years we didn't have a marshal, because we didn't have the officers available. So, like at this point in our lodge, our marshal just sits there at the foot of the master, basically, and gets to wear a jewel.
Right. And I know that in some lodges and in some jurisdictions, like, he's actually focused for not Grand Lodge law, following protocol.
Yeah.
Then again, our lodge is relatively well behaved, so kind of has his job cut out for him.
Yeah, and you can make the duty, to like, he helps set up the lodge room before, make sure the sign-in book is out, aprons, and things of that nature. And he's like on the I don't know what you'd call it, the trying committee. What do you call that? Yeah, I guess where you try an out-of-state brother.
No. I was thinking of the petitions. Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. I don't know what you would call that. I mean,
The senior deacon.
Usually that's like the senior deacon and I guess the marshal.
Yeah. Golly, why am I drawing a blank on that? Doesn't the senior deacon say that in his duties? Examine. Goodness gracious.
Oh, the examination committee. Okay.
Examination committee, exactly, to where he's basically a witness learning how to do it kind of thing, So you can add a lot of duties to that marshal because ultimately in our jurisdiction, they don't have a big part, to where some jurisdictions he actually has degree work and everything else. But here, not the case.
Now, this next position is one that drives me crazy, not because of the role or like that, but because of the jewel. Now, the marshal has a pair of horizontally crossed. The master of ceremony has a pair of vertically crossed batons. I'm almost certain. I might be totally wrong about it. But if you look up, master of ceremonies jewel, they're the vertically crossed batons. And even on Wikipedia, they list the crossed swords. That's the sentinel jewel. I was looking at a catalog of jewels that were sold, and just to verify, they are separate jewels and everything like that. So I don't know, just one of those things that I've seen is hand me the master of ceremonies' jewels, and it's like the swords and it's the batons.
So
somebody's probably going to call me out on that one. Because I might be totally 100% the cross sword.
Yeah, that's what it shows on J.P. Luther too.
Yeah. Okay, so if J.P. Luther's, we can kind of go by that.
Yeah, because what are the batons anyways to a Mason? That just hit me. That's like, wait, where does a baton even mentioned in our word?
So, hey, if anybody's listening to this and you guys know where a baton shows up, please email us because I'm wondering.
Give us a rabbit hole. Yeah. They've got an educational jewel on here too.
Yeah, and that's one of the positions that exists in other jurisdictions. But yeah, so the master of ceremonies. That's the only gripe I have with that position is that people get the jewel wrong all the time. But his is mostly a degree-based position.
It is. Yeah, I mean, I really and truly, I don't even remember seeing anything when I looked through. I didn't read all the way through the installation ceremony, but let's see, there's Brother Marshall, but I don't see, or I've never had it, any experience with them having any actual duty, which aside from ritual work. So, they would be like in charge of maybe preparing the candidate room kind of thing.
Right. So I guess moving on down then to the musician. Some jurisdictions call them an organist. Some people call them the director of music. Some people call them the musician. He's got a harp. He wears that. Nothing that I can really think of. Then you got to get one that's really good at doing music, I guess. Otherwise, but we've got Brother Hondo, and Hondo is awesome. He's our lodge musician.
Yes.
So, but that's another appointed.
Yes, everything's appointed, but the Tyler, secretary, treasurer, and the line officers.
Okay. Oh, and speaking of the Tyler, I guess he's a guy out there with a big sword. Yeah, and
that's the only officer. He is. That's the only officer that can be a non-member of your lodge. I assume that's why he's elected.
Now, when you say non-member, do you mean somebody who's a Mason that is not a member of your lodge, or somebody that isn't even a Mason?
Yes. Yeah, they've got to be a Mason, but say somebody from Panther City or Julian Field, or doesn't matter, any lodge in Texas, could be your Tyler if you so elected and they agreed. Okay. The whole reasoning behind that is that Tyler should stay outside the door at all times and the door's shut. So he can't hear anything that's going on, nor can he vote when he's outside the door. He can vote on candidates, they come in, but otherwise every other issue, show of hands, he doesn't get to vote on. So a non-member wouldn't care.
And then I've heard that a lot of times that's usually a past master's position because the past master usually knows everybody in the lodge, so he can actually kind of vet people.
This is true. And especially most lodges you see comes back in and sits down in the lodge and they lock the door. So, my argument for that is kind of mute if that's the way it goes. But if you're following the traditional way of doing it, that Tyler should be outside, and the last thing you want to do is take all that experience a past master has and put him outside.
I heard a theory. I was visiting a lodge, and they had a past master. They made the junior past master every year, the Tyler, with the idea that it would prevent them from standing in the way of the new past master. I'm serious. It was,
that might be an issue, but I'm not saying that you can't do that, because, like I say, that most of the time they come back in, and that past master can add to the the experience or the issue at hand in lodge. But I'm thinking that the guy outside the door, great, the past master knows everybody and can vouch for him, but there's nothing wrong with somebody out there who doesn't know anybody, and any person who comes through that door late is going to be tried. You're going to have to whip out your dues card.
Or stabbed. I mean, that's just, for the sake of inconvenience.
You got it. And now,
big old sword for a reason.
I had someone get offended. They were a member of the lodge, and I've been in the lodge 2 years, and I never met them. And the door was closed, and I asked them for a dues card, and they looked at me like I was out of my mind. It was kind of a surreal moment. I didn't really know how to take it, and it was just one of those moments where it was like, I'm sorry, we've never met. I got to ask for your dues card.
Yeah.
So that's some of the stuff. I guess the minor drama you can run in outside of the door, and I know why you guys put me outside. You needed me to shut up. And that makes sense. I understand.
Let me tell you something, though. That creates the perfect situation to where that guy's going to get offended and not come back to lodge. And that kind of guy you don't want in lodge.
Well,
I
don't know. You would hope it would motivate him to come more so people would know him.
But you would think so. But any Mason that has a problem with pulling out their dues card and proving that they're a Mason, that's just childish. You know what I mean? And if they've got an issue with that, if they skate by that one, they're going to bring up another issue down the road.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the Tylers, obviously here in the States where Mason are mostly accepted very, very benignly, the Tyler, there have been some serious incidents, but in the West in general, the Tyler does not have to usually death or serious maim, although the remote possibility.
And I'll tell you guys, our sword is I got bored one night and there was a box out there. I tried to cut the box with the sword. Did not work. I hit it.
So everybody come Fort Worth Lodge 148. Our Tyler is totally defenseless with his big sword.
No, but don't. Be careful. We did pass bylaws.
Yeah. I firmly believe that the Tyler should be allowed to tile short barrel.
I would.
But that's the kind of thing that would cause to, some people would be totally down for it and then lose their mind, and I don't necessarily blame them.
Right.
But, there are lodges in the Middle East. An author that I was reading, he was talking about a lodge that's Syria, and they had, I think, 2 tiles, and they tiled with AKs because their masonry is a very, very serious legal offense. Just being a mason.
No,
I
know somebody.
Very lucky.
Yeah, I know somebody personally who's done that. Who's been to a lodge to speak, and they picked him up, and the guys had AKs.
Really?
From the time they picked him up, and they were ready to move at a moment's notice because they were meeting at a secret location, and it was tiled with AKs. He said it was surreal.
Yeah, it's both super cool and also very alarming.
It is. It's a testament to the tenets that are in Freemasonry, that it's inherent in us. It's human nature. It's just put on paper in the form of masonry tools.
So we'd mentioned it very briefly, the junior past master. Now I have this. In my notes, I have him junior past master, not seemingly codified, but definitely exists. Question. And so tell us about the junior past master, because it seems like I was looking at the Grand Lodge law book and I couldn't find a codified version for the junior past master's role, although he is mentioned 3 times and it's, hey, this guy can do this, but it's not like the other position where they actually have stuff in terms of what that person.
No, and it's not one of the, of course, in Grand Lodge law, it says that I don't know exactly how to say it, the closest past master, that the one that's been in the East, the soonest, the one who's left the East, junior past, if the worshipful master not there, junior past master can fall in his role. Then the past master who was master 2 years ago, 3 years, so on and so forth. So it would fall that way. It's not like if the worshipful master and senior warden are there, any past master can open it. There's an order it goes in of who gets the job first, and it falls to the junior past master first. But that's really not even an issue because it's very rare those guys don't show up. But at the same time, the junior past master should be right there with the worshipful master on issues that have been going on since he was master. Maybe there was some drama going on behind them. And of course, the senior warden knew about it, but maybe wasn't as involved as the worshipful master was, and now he is, and he's feeding him all the information he's got. Or there's a program that somebody had issue with or did good with, and it's like, hey, like Heston did great with the golf tournament, and make sure the master knows that he's that guy's a part of that committee again. So that's where the junior past master role really lies. He's got no authority, and that's why I thought it was funny that they make him Tyler so he doesn't interfere with the worshipful master.
Thank you for your service. Shut up.
Yeah. That goes back to me saying we give that title too much power. They are the ranking member. They've got the final say in lodge. Yeah, that's great. But, he can either do the will of the lodge and create the environment for that to grow, or he can watch himself run the lodge into the ground. If you try to do stuff that guys aren't there to do, they're just not going to come anymore.
So there are some positions that we haven't talked about. Now, I know at the beginning of the episode we said we would talk about Grand Lodge. We're not going to tackle that because we are already running super long time. However,
Sweet.
I did briefly want to go over some of the lodge level positions that exist in other jurisdictions that don't exist in Texas. So
learn me something.
Right. So this one you might find interesting. There are some jurisdictions where there is an officer called the assistant secretary. His jewel, instead of the crossed quills, he's got a single. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. I didn't even know that existed until I started. But that was kind of an interesting thing. So the assistant secretary is one position. The inner guard or the inside sentinel, that's the one that I mentioned earlier, with the master of ceremonies jewel confusion. The sentinel is the guy that's got the crossed swords. That's something that you see over the pond, UGLE Lodge. And so
what do they do?
I understand is that it's like he's like the. So I'm not 100% on it because I've never sat in a UGLE Lodge. But the understanding that I have is that he fulfills the junior deacon's duty, and sometimes so the Tyler has a sword and Sentinel has like a dagger.
Sweet.
So
that's a cool name.
Kind of cool. Some jurisdictions have the director of ceremonies, or what they call it, right? And so this is another UGLE position, and that's the guy that in our lodge, the junior warden runs the degree practice and rehearsals and everything like that. In other jurisdictions, the ritual or the director of ceremonies, that's the guy that runs everything. So I thought that's kind of cool. So if you take your ritual seriously enough to appoint a totally separate officer, I can get down with. And I think the Grand Lodge of New York actually has something very. And then some lodges have this guy called the almoner, also sometimes called the caring officer. And so he kind of fulfills a lot of the jobs that the chaplain's kind of. I know that sometimes the chaplain often is in charge of our homebound, that kind of thing. That's the almoner job. He makes sure that the members are, fine, and the families are fine. He, one of the specific duties of the almoner, maintain a quote-unquote discreet presence in the lives of widows of former members. So that way, the widow needs help, the lodge can reach out as fast as the almoner is. And then, of course, he is in charge of being very well versed in charities around the country, Masonic. There's this guy called the Superintendent of Works, and he's in charge of inventory, and he's responsible for all of the props, all materials. So, like, he's going to cost all the box of jewels, the Bibles, any pins that you have, that kind of. He maintains inventory, and then he's also the guy that sets and then in some jurisdictions, the immediate past master, or what we call the junior past master, is an actual formal codified position. And in some jurisdiction, he just kind of neat. There's an office called the orator, and the orator, that's the research. He's kind of in charge of education. He presents papers and presentations and stuff like that. He's kind of closely tied into the historian, and that's usually a past master, very well versed. That's somebody that archives letters, documents, makes a record of events, so going above and beyond just talking more about the history. And then the charity steward that's a position that exists in some jurisdictions. The charity steward is the guy who runs all of the charity. He's very closely, in my eyes, as somebody who's not encountered that, he seems similar to them. Some lodges have an office called the Poet Laureate, super rare, and it's somebody that honor a lodge. The first time that position showed up was Lodge Canongate Kilwinning number 2, and that was Robert Burns, Lodge Poet Laureate. It doesn't seem like that's very common, but Rudyard Kipling.
Cool.
And usually this is a Grand Lodge position, but some lodges have at the lodge level pursuivant, and that's Pursuivant. Is it pursuivant or pursuivant?
Well, I've always heard it called pursuivant.
Okay, pursuivant. I'm just and so that's the
be
guy
Texas.
that answers the alarm at the law. So, but those are some offices doing in Texas.
Yeah,
and we really killed it on time tonight.
I'm telling you, I can go on and on.
Yeah, so we'll tackle Grand Lodge on a different episode and have a little bit more of a regarding officers that don't exist. Hold on that thought.
Yeah.
Because,
in the meantime, I'm going to figure out the thing with the batons.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you know about the batons, tell us more about it. I know that one of our listeners, Billy, mentioned that Mackie actually wrote about that. And so the marshal used to carry, Mackey's Encyclopedia of Freemasonry states that the marshal used to carry a wooden rod about the ensign of his office. And I've been to DeMolay meeting, but their marshal does carry a baton, but not sure.
Yeah.
And hopefully somebody can reach out to us.
Please let us know.
Let's do events, because we've got plenty of them.
Hit it.
All right. So, Texas events. So, April 17th, Knob Creek Lodge 401 in Temple, Texas is holding a master's degree. Dinner is at 6:30 p.m., with a degree following at 7:30 p.m. The lodge is located at the corner of Central and 2nd Avenue in downtown Temple. If you're in the area, join them, April 17th. April 29th, Lions Junior Lodge is doing a custom car and bike show in Austin at 10 a.m. It's at the George Washington Carver Museum and Cultural Center in Austin. Entry is $25, registration is at 10 a.m., and judging begins at high 12. There are door prizes and a free t-shirt with call 512-845-5549. May 6th, Chalk Mountain Lodge 894 is holding a fish fry fundraiser from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Tickets are $10 for adults and $5 for children 10 years and under. All proceeds are going to the Chalk Mountain Charitable Works. If you want to join them, the event is happening at 244 South Columbia in Stephenville. So, Tarrant County and nearby, April 13th, that's the night that this podcast is. So, the podcast will be released on the morning of the 13th. So, if you catch this on the morning of there's 3 events for April 13th. Burleson Lodge 649 is going to put on the first of 2 master's degree, with the second occurring on April 20th. The meal is at 6 p.m. and the degree begins at 7 p.m. If you can make it to one or both, they would love that. For more info and to let their secretary, Brother Rodney Beckham, know you're coming, please give them a call at 648-1373. Also, April 13th, I don't have a lot of details on this. Smithfield Lodge is also holding a master's. If you're able tonight, you're closer to Smithfield Lodge, go to that. They'll also be having a EA proficiency on the 17th. But if you're a master, go to our master. April 13th, Handley Lodge, 1140, is having their stated meeting. That's the second Thursday of every month at 7:30 p.m. They still have the traveling gavel and the mega gavel by then. Bring 7 or more brothers to their meeting and claim it for your lodge. Remember to email the 64th District with an update to who now has the traveling gavel. And unfortunately, Fort Worth Lodge will not be able to come and get it because we are having a fill.
Yeah.
That's happening. On April 14th and 15th, the Texas Masonic Retirement is holding a garage sale on Friday, the 15th. They're located at 1501 West Division Street in Arlington, Texas. So go see if one brother's garage junk is your garage treasure. May 20th. This is a little bit in advance, but I wanted to toss this out there. Tickets are going fast, limited to 500 seats. The Oklahoma Indian Degree Team is coming to Garland, Texas, and Hella Shrine is hosting. So the MWSA of Masonic District number 9 and East Fork Lodge number 650, they're the ones that are going to be hosting the master's degree within the Hella Shrine building, I think. And that's Saturday, May 20th at 1 p.m. following an 11:30 a.m. lunch. It's in the Black Horse Barn at Hella Shrine, 2121 Rowlett Road in Garland, Texas. Tickets are $25, and that includes lunch. You can get the tickets at eventbrite.com, eventbrite.com. You can find out more at www.eastforklodge.org/Facebook. It's only open to Master Masons. That is, of course. Please bring your dues card and a photo ID. I think they mentioned like bringing a chair because they may not have enough. I don't remember. For more info, call 972-670-6758 or 214-533-5659. I'm going to that. And one of our listeners asked, will they be in full Native American dress? And I have not been to another degree. Understanding is they do wear traditional dress. So pretty neat stuff. I've seen some photos of them, and they are dope. I don't know if it's for the degree itself. It seems like an awesome event. I'm going. It'll be great. At the Temple, 1100 Henderson in Fort Worth, we have a bunch of events happening. So, Saturday, April 15th, Worth Commandery is putting on the orders. It's going to be an all-day affair. It starts at 8 a.m. and should theoretically conclude at around 4. It's going to be really cool. I'm going to be one of the candidates, so if you're a Sir Knight, come and watch the orders or take part. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. Monday, April 17th. This is a really important one. April 17th, just so you catch it again. Fort Worth 148 is putting on a Master Masons at 6. Come join us. And on Monday, April 24th, a week after that, Brother Roberto Sanchez is coming to the temple at 6 to speak on the true Masonic experience. And so Brother Sanchez is a Masonic speaker and author who's lectured all over the U.S., Canada, Latin America, and Europe. This event is open to all regular Masons, including entered apprentices and fellow Christians. So please join us. And on Monday, May 1st, Fort Worth 148 is putting on another Master. So clear your calendar. I know that you may not be able to make time for the 17th, but we already have a ton of people coming to that, so come join us for that. But you definitely have advance notice for May 1st, so make time. It'll be great.
Come see us.
As always, 148 meets on the second Monday of each month, starting dinner at 6 p.m. for a 7 p.m. stated at 1100 Henderson, Fort Worth. Tonight's quote, and this one is related, maybe not specifically to office. I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. And that's by our British brother.
That definitely fits the Worshipful Master seat. That's awesome.
So, as always, people, if you want to reach out to us, visit us at www.fortworth148.org or at Fort Worth Lodge 148 on Facebook. If you live in the 64th District of the Grand Lodge of Texas and you want to promote an event, please reach out to them at 64th.org, 64th.org, and you can also reach us at info148 Fort Worth.
You got it. This is Rhit Moore signing off.
Grant Gates signing off.
Gabriel Jagush signing off.